So George Floyd is murdered May 26th in 2020. This album drops June 3rd.
Mhm.
And I know it's been said by you and many people who've asked you about how prescient it seemed for some of the subject matter that's on the album. But
Mhm.
what I'm really more curious about is just for you all as a group and you as a creator, what did it feel like to release a project into a fully chaotic and on fire and broken world?
I mean, there's so many levels to that answer that I might give. The first level is that one of the contributing factors
Hmm.
of us saying, fuck it, we'll risk this record falling flat during a time when there can't be any real promotion was George Floyd's murder. And
Hmm.
also everyone's murder. It was what was happening in America in general. Was one of the reasons why we decided, like, yo, let's put this shit out now. It's bigger than what we might lose from a badly timed campaign. There's two
Right.
versions of
Right.
timing. There's timing of humanity and history and emotion and intent, and then there's timing of business and strategy and campaign and money and all that bullshit. That factored in, weighed in to us deciding, that we wanted
Hmm.
to drop it first. So we knew that we had a record on our hands
Right.
that surprisingly all of a sudden was so goddamn on the nose in terms of the way that we were feeling and in terms of what was going on. We already knew it was because that's the history of the world, but
Hmm.
where everybody's consciousness was at that moment, again, we felt like somehow we had a record that would do something for people at that time, at that moment. It made it that much more important for us
Right.
to drop it. And it was that in a combination of just wanting the fans to have the record. Already all of our plans were destroyed
Right.
by COVID. Internally, that was like a thing that hit us kind of in March. We were supposed to drop the record April.
I see.
Yeah. That we were going to drop it the day that we were playing the main stage before Rage at Coachella, and
Wow.
we were going to drop it on that day. A gutsy move, one that we were one, one that we were all pretty psyched about. And then it became clear to us, we were in LA, and it became clear to us that this shit was maybe not just a regular flu,
Yeah.
whatever. And we had already like shot the Ooh La La video. I had been in LA training. Me and Zach were going to the trainer every day for like 2 months. I quit smoking. I was like, oh, it's
Whoa.
about to be on. Yeah, I was making real life changes to get ready to go on the road. We were gonna jump this tour off right after Coachella. For Run the Jewels 4, we ended up going with BMG,
Okay.
who is technically an independent label at this point because they're now independently owned. They're not in a major label system, but they have the power, the force of a major label.
The
Um,
infrastructure of it one. Yeah.
yeah. We were just like, all right, well, point being, we had to kind of treat it a little bit more like, okay, there's a traditional rollout, which is
Right.
something that previous to that, we never really had to think about that at all. We were like, oh, we're just going to jump street date, drop the shit,
Yeah.
whenever we want.
Yeah.
Run the Jewels 1, we dropped it, no one was expecting it. Run the Jewels 2, we were literally on tour. I think we were drunk when we decided to drop, you know.
Always when the best decisions
Yeah,
are
we were
made,
like, let's do
on
it, let's
tour
drop
drunk.
it, fuck it. Much to the chagrin of our extended team. Run the Jewels 3, we jumped street date again and dropped it on Christmas Eve. So we never had any type of consideration for too much of a plan. But when you fuck with
Right.
somebody who's got, 2,000 employees and they're giving you a big marketing budget and you got, seemingly have resources that are going to be bigger than what you had before, you can't really just operate like a rogue cell completely.
Right.
You got to have a rollout and you got to have a plan and et cetera, all that bullshit that everybody has to do when there's like legitimate, like motherfuckers, like, pensions or,
Right.
Um,
Right.
so we were proceeding that way. We were proceeding like that's what was happening. And we were like, oh, well, this is going to be different. This is a change. We've got to like set a date and stick to it and, roll it
Hmm.
out precisely. And everybody,
Singles, announcements, that
everything,
whole
singles into
routine.
shows, into things, and the blah, blah, blah. And just kind of get the ball rolling in a way ahead of time that we knew what was going to happen from our end. And of course,
Hmm.
then destiny and life just sweeps in and it's like,
Right.
actually, don't worry about it, guys. Yeah, all those plans are fucked on a level that you couldn't even imagine. Like, oh, you're jumping street date, we're jumping tour date 2 years into the future.
Wow. Yeah.
It was suggested to us that we wait until the next year. It was
Wow.
suggested to us because a lot of artists did that. A lot of artists
Right.
were, big artists were confronted with the reality, which is internally in the industry. Everyone was starting to murmur and kind of know that it was unlikely that shows were happening that year, not even just that summer.
And I think, just for people who don't really understand, that is leaving a lot of money on the table.
Yeah.
Right? Like people may not really understand how big of a deal that is to release something when you can't tour it versus when you could.
Exactly. So that's exactly what a lot of big artists in the industry did. They just canceled their plans. Like, yo, I can't risk it. We're gonna have to push this back to next year when we know or when we suspect it'll be different. No one knew, of course. We still don't know. And we were looking at releasing a record and not being able to tour it. And for us as a touring group, we fought really hard to get to a point where we're a big touring entity. And
right,
just as people, it's like, yeah, it's my job. You do the record and then you go to work. You punch the clock and you work for however long they'll let you, essentially.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's like, hey, can I tour this shit for 6 months? Can I tour for a year? Can I go to every territory? Or am I just relegated to a couple runs? The touring was really the bread and butter for us. That was always sort of the thought. It was why we had the leeway to drop the record and not worry too much about counting pennies, giving the record away for free, all that. Most people balk at that because that's like, oh shit, that's where I make my penny. We had gotten to the point where we were all about making the record and playing the record. And those are the two purest things that I think that you can really be involved in. But here we were making a big ass plan, and then the big ass plan got completely derailed anyway, which in a funny way kind of put us back in our comfort zone. Like, oh, hey,
the most planned turns into the most chaotic yet.
Like chaos is the run the jewels comfort zone to some degree, because it allows us to just decide on the spot what feels right as opposed to what we have to do. And I'd say me and Mike are both the type of cats who we really tried to make it so that our lives are about what we want to do versus what we have to do. I don't think we're unique in that regard, but that's really what our goal has been. But for some reason, both Mike and I felt like, I think because of the times, because of what was happening, because of our sort of even responsibility to the fans, like, look, we knew that people were ready for it. We knew that, in fact, they had been very patient with us about it. And when we were step two about possibly releasing it and just, postponing it until things were safer, until we had a more guaranteed income, until this operation could really move, we just said that didn't feel right to us. Our gut was like, you know what? This shit needs to be dropped now. I think that we thought it was important for multiple reasons. And we didn't know what was going to be the result. We didn't know if that was going to fuck us. We didn't know if in a year we were going to be like, yo, I need this fucking money.
Right.
That's a big deal for me. This is what we do. And then it came to us that we could drop it earlier. We jumped on it. We said yes. We just figured, fuck it. We'll go the opposite direction. We'll just jump out here because some things are more important than our marketing strategy.
Right.
And we weren't really that type of band anyway. Anything that we had or any momentum that we have, I honestly believe was just because of the first three records. It wasn't because we were running advertisements and people, it's not a fucking movie trailer,
Right.
It's just some real typical Run the Jewels shit, which I'm happy about. Like, yeah,
that's
fuck
dope.
it.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing the Run the Jewels movie. It's going to be called Fuck It, the Run the Jewels story.
Yeah,
I'm really looking forward to that.
Stony Island Audio.